Hello there, welcome to the midweek edition of Journalist Hangout. I am Dakmo Aruwajoye. Today on the program, a former head of state, Yakubu Goan, meets with President Buhari over Chibok girls and other national issues. A Sage committee invites Jibrin over budget padding petitions. And later on the program, President Buhari issues warning to the Avengers. Joining me today are Dikpo Olayokun and Adekunle Yusuf. Journalist Hangout starts now. Our former head of state, General Yakubu Goan, met with President Buhari in Abuja on Tuesday over a number of national issues. The issues discussed by the two leaders included the fate of the abducted Chibok schoolgirls, the president's anti-corruption war, and the violence being unleashed on the Niger Delta by members of the Niger Delta Avengers. Our President, General Goan, spoke on the Chibok girls, assuring the people that the government was committed to ensuring that a number of the girls were rescued as soon as possible. The former head of state described corruption as one of the major factors creating serious setback for the country. He expressed the belief that government's efforts aimed at making lives better for the people would soon begin to yield fruit. I will go on to assurance keep Nigerians' mind at rest. I will start by asking this gentleman today. Dikpo Olayokun, General, thank you very much for joining us again.
It's always a pleasure with us.
Adekunle Yusuf, thank you also for joining us, I said.
I'm glad to be here.
Okay, the former head of state, Yakubu Goan, the assurance coming from him that the Chibok girls will be found soon. Does the assurance hold water for you?
Oh, yes, because if you look at the person of General Yakubu Goan, he is not the flippant type. And it's one of the elder statesmen that always exercise some restraint. Don't forget that as a former head of state, he must have the ear of the president. And then they also have what we call a direct and unhindered access to him. Yes, there is a platform, that's National Council of States, where all heads of states and other officials are expected to meet with the president to discuss national issues. But it is expected that once in a while, don't forget that just of recent, about 2 weeks ago, another former head of state, General Absalom Abubakar, also paid the president a visit. It is expected that that kind of forum will afford the two of them to exchange notes, borrow him some ideas, if I may use that language, and then they will also listen to what the president and his government are doing. Don't forget that there are some information that cannot be put in the public domain for security reasons. And this type of information can be shared with these elder statesmen, hoping that they are going to keep it to their chest. Because don't forget, this is purely a security issue. And when you begin to put it on the public domain, the tendency is there that those who are even working against, or those who you are working towards neutralizing them, will have access to it. And you know, the issue of the Chibok girls have become very touchy, especially in the past 2 or 3 weeks when the recent video where they showed one small girl. As a matter of fact, I didn't know when the tears were dropping from my eyes after watching that girl, because my imagination is that small innocent girl being in the company of this, without any inhibition, I call them animals, for more than 2 years. You can imagine
monsters, what
she will have become. So, and you can also appreciate what the Nigerian army is now doing, because they are seriously under, at least they are panicking with the recent announcement where they said they declared 3 people wanted, because everybody knows, since even before now, that these people have access to, I mean, the 3 people they declared wanted have access to the Boko Haram boys, not because of anything, but because of what we call age-long associationship. So it's on the basis of that, because the Nigerian army believe that time is running out. Maybe. So it's like everybody is now working towards it. And if the president, the former head of state, after listening to the president, has come out to give us the assurance, I also believe that the government is working.
Okay, well, what about you? Do you believe also? Because to some people, this is like deja vu. We've seen it before. It's like assurances that keep coming every time. But this time around, do you think this will pass? This assurance.
With respect to the personality of General Goan, I don't think he said anything. I'm not impressed that I had nothing. He spoke about the economy. He spoke about the war against corruption. He also spoke about
Niger
the
Delta.
gas and the Niger Delta, crude oil price and all that, and all this, how all this affects, the economy. To me, he has said nothing because as a former occupant of that office, I expected that he knows more than the average Nigerian, and he may have said certain things that he didn't reveal, when he was interacting with journalists. But when you try to analyze what he said when he was addressing journalists, to me, he has said nothing, because on the Chibok case, there's nothing General Goan said that we have not heard several times, even before the administration came on board. On the economy, there is nothing that he said that we haven't heard from the president himself, the vice president, and other top characters, players of this in this government. When it comes to Chibok case, there was no assurance other than the government is committed.
Is that not an assurance? Is that not assurance enough?
I believe it even when I had it from the president, former president. You see, General Goan, I respect him being a complete gentleman. I admire him for that. But here is a man who is always a friend of, all governments in power, and whatever his solutions, it's always about prayers, and I don't know of any country, that has developed because of prayers. I prefer you, come up with ideas and pursue them, with visionary, commitment, determination, and all that. I'm not condemning prayers. I'm also, but I'm trying to say,
General, walk and pray.
Believe me, his own idea. Yeah, he's somebody who has been in that office, and he, as a military man who was in that office more than anybody, he knows some of the problems of Nigeria. Prayer is good, but we need to walk the talk. So these are some of the issues when I speak about General Goan. Okay. So when he came on board to now say, all he was selling for so before, now he's selling, we know that. When he spoke about the war against corruption, even the critics of this government knows that the administration is working very hard in the war against corruption. It's not easy to fight corruption because it will fight back. I have not seen even the enemies or what I call critics of this government, coming out to say General Buhari, President Buhari is not committed to the war against corruption. I've not seen anyone, except people who just want to embarrass themselves. Then when you come to war against insurgency, even when I was speaking in some places, I said, I expect this government to be talking about the war against insurgency. It has achieved a lot. It should be talking about it, even to the point that people should get tired.
But they say the
war against insurgency is not only about Chibok gas. It's one of the various aspects of the war against insurgency. But people will be very glad to have the Chibok gas back. But if we have them back, and we are still facing, the onslaught, the killings, the violence from Boko Haram, we are still not want it. So we want the Chibok gas. Then we want to totally eradicate the menace constituted by Boko Haram.
Let's talk about the war against Boko Haram, really. Maybe we'll focus on that. The moves by the military of recent, do you think they've achieved tremendously, or they're still where they are? And talking about of recent, they came up again to say Shekau has been injured badly, and the commanders, most of them dead. But this Shekau, it seems like he's got 9 lives. What do you think?
As a matter of fact, that I was taken aback by that statement. That Shekau has been fatally wounded. Because I didn't expect that with the present state of the Nigerian army. I didn't expect that we should engage in that kind of talk again.
Because if Shekau is wounded, fatally wounded,
how did you get to know?
How did you get to know? It should be in your custody if he's wounded.
So, but the same, you remember how many times he has been declared dead?
Yes, that's why I said we didn't expect that the current army, under the new dispensation, will be engaging in that kind of frivolities. I think, yes, we need to commend them, because if you compare the present with the past, in the past 6-7 months, some villages that people have abandoned for ID cabs, people are now going back there. Some roads that have been abandoned for years, these roads are being used once again. The last Muslim festival, I think it was, there was this festival about 2 or 3 months ago, that for the first time in 3 or 4 years, there was a general congregation of Muslims in Borno that, we are going to Eid.
And no bombing.
And no bombing. So, unless we want to be very, very unfair, there have been significant improvement in the state of security in the Northeast. About from April till last month, at least I have visited some states, especially in the Northeast, Adamawa, Bauchi, Gombe. At least I've even some of these places have even gone there by road. And
they're relatively peaceful.
Even the guys that live there said that even the security measures have even been relaxed. You see those soldiers that mark the checking points, they are now in a relaxed mode. And they told us that in the past, about 2 years ago, 1 year ago, that those guys were always edgy. But like my friend said here, until we get the Chibok girls, it's like nobody is going to believe that we have made any headway. How? Because we made a grievous mistake when these girls were abducted. We made it as if that was the first abduction since the war of Boko Haram started. These guys have gone to schools where they have killed many people. These guys have gone to villages where they have abducted female, old men. Like the chief of army staff said about last week, that they had freed about 20,000 people that were held captive or hostage by the Boko Haram. I remember that before the last election, when the then government started that renewed onslaught against Boko Haram, there was a spot they got to where they even paraded those people, where they said they freed about 1,000 people, female, old women, young boys, children. So that's why some of us laugh when some guys said there's no Chibok girls. I always make reference to, okay, what about those people? If there are those people, why is it difficult for us to believe Chibok girls? That is not the issue.
The people still insist.
But that is not the issue. So I think the mistake we made, and the whole world made that mistake, when the Chibok girls thing started, the whole world came to Nigeria, and that was when the Boko Haram guys realized that, so we have gold on our hands, and that's why they can do anything. They can release every other person, but they will hold on to Chibok girls because we have made it look as if they are holding gold. And that is why they will always want to negotiate.
So they should have generalized.
It should have been a general thing, but the whole world came to Nigeria as if Chibok
just because of the 200.
And that was what really happened, and that was what, if you look at in the past 2.5 years, that's why I'm not very happy. I don't want to use the word angry because I know those guys are under pressure. I'm not happy at what the military guys did when they declared those 3 people wanted. I read one interview before the last, I think it was immediately or before the last election. This guy that is now in the Dubai, this journalist. I read an interview he granted one international paper that he negotiated the release of those boys. That when the people were around Jonathan, that he met Jonathan on several occasions, that when they were doubting the authenticity of that thing, he took a photograph with those girls, with the Boko Haram boys, covering their faces, and showed Jonathan. He said, but at the point of Jonathan approving, those guys that were eating fat on the Boko Haram issue said Jonathan should not do it because they knew that would be an end to their source of revenue, money. So these guys always have access to these Boko Haram boys. He had access to these girls. The same thing with this lady, Aisha Wakil. According to what I read some years back, that when these boys were still growing up, he was the one feeding them. So they call him Mama Boko Haram. So if the Nigerian army has become so edgy, and they believe, okay, you guys have access to them, it's just like during the Gulf War. I think it was Peter Arnett, when they were looking for Saddam Hussein. It was Peter Arnett who interviewed Saddam Hussein. The American wanted him to divulge the secret where he met, but the guy said no. The American army didn't use force on him because that is its own power of what he's doing. So for the army to have come out to save the identity of Boko Haram, I think they are putting their lives in jeopardy. I think there's the need for the army to tread very cautiously. They can use them, but not in this manner.
Yeah, not in this manner. Because of intelligence, really, they can use them. The boys, these people have been saying, they still according to information, sometimes still see these Boko Haram people. Why is it that we cannot? Is it maybe I watch a lot of films. Really, you can bug these people. Can't you bug them? And again, talking about looking for where these people are, they are still, according to reports, they are still in that forest. And you can use the infrared, what's it called, light. You can use the thermal light, the equipment to find them in the bush.
What people don't know about the Sambisa forest, it's not a small, isolated place. It's a vast expanse.
But since of these days, if they'd done surveillance, they would have searched everywhere now.
See, this is a very thick, large
and
forest.
The people
and
that
by the estimate of the New York Times, it is exactly the size of Belgium,
a country.
So this is a huge expanse, of land. What we are talking about, I'm not trying to speak on behalf of the security agencies, but you will see that the determination of this government is to secure the release of those guys. The issues I have with the effort is that I expected that the war against Boko Haram will be fought with some little amendments here and there. What do I mean?
Yes.
Insurgency thrives on funding. We haven't heard of who are the sponsors. Nobody has been brought to book as one of the financiers. These are issues that we should be talking about. The soldiers are doing a human job, but we want the intelligence community to do more, because without sponsoring, without funding, there's no way this war will continue all these years.
Maybe they have that intelligence they don't want to tell us.
But they should prosecute people, because if you are prosecuted, maybe in the regular court or in the military tribunal for this kind of things, people will get to hear about it. That I'm sure. So these are issues that we should be thinking about as our soldiers commit their life, towards finding these guys. I believe these guys will still be found from the way.
But it depends on the states they are found. Can I quickly take Mohazu and I'll come back to you? Mohazu is calling from Niger State. Good evening, Mohazu. Mohazu, I lost that call there. Try and call back, please. Okay. Let me go to you now. So, what do you think? What should the government be doing? Because he's been trying to prefer some solutions. Maybe you change the tactic. What else should they be doing right about now?
If you have been listening to government officials, although they have not been that categorical, but you would deduce from their utterances that there have been some negotiations, either stopped or another one reopened, even right from the beginning.
But the latest negotiation, the one presupposed negotiation, the one about swapping prisoners for the girls, do you think that's a good one?
There's nothing bad in it. Because if you look at even countries with more sophisticated equipment in terms of surveillance, in terms of fighting wars, there will be a time when you come face to face with the stark reality. It's just like we don't have to continue mentioning of names. Just about a year ago, I remember that Israel, because of one soldier, had to release about 1,000 Palestinians and stuff like that.
Even the Americans
do it. So I don't think there's any big deal in that one. I think what is very, very important, which everybody is talking about, is if the government is going to negotiate, you must negotiate from the point of strength rather. Your government will determine the terms of the agreement.
The government should be above
yes, not this
I have a call from Katsina. That's Jones. Good evening, Jones.
Hello, ma.
Good evening, Jones.
Hello?
Yeah, hi, Jones. Good evening.
Sir, are you with me?
Yeah, you're live now. Your contribution, please.
Yes. Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Continue.
Hello, sir, are you with me?
I'm with you.
No, sir,
Tell him to reduce the volume.
Because you're listening to yourself. Turn down the volume of your TV and you hear me properly. Are you there now? Okay. Oh, yeah, I interrupted
so
you.
we are looking at, it is not a new thing, because at times what is very, very important is how do we get these girls alive? Yes, this program have said, oh, we are going to swap. You release some of our boys. But usually what people do is they release the non-combatant members of Boko Haram. Don't forget that over over the years, government have said they have been releasing those who are mistakenly arrested. Just about 2 months ago, I think it's about 200 members of their families. You know, because at a stage when this war became very dirty, what the military were just doing, they threw caution to the blood. Anytime they get, just like what the policeman would do when they get to the scene of any crime, they pack anybody that, unfortunately, to be there, and they are suspects. And you know, when the moment you get to the position, you are a suspect, real suspect. So I think what the government will do is, yes, you must have a terms of agreement, which I think they have been doing. And I think people have been saying there's a need for government to bring in what you call expert negotiators. There are some people that is their trade. That is what they know how to do. And just like the man who revealed that secret, that Switzerland guy or Swede, that man, we have people like that's what they were doing. And that is their job. I think the government, because what's very, very important is the government should know that time is running out. And like I listened to some of the parents of the Chibok guests yesterday, or day before yesterday, that some of them said, but this government, we didn't know this how it would be. And the moment when the situation gets to that point, the government must know. Maybe that is why, one, the army came up with that panicky announcement. Two, maybe that is why the president had to grant audience to a former head of state. Because don't forget, General Goan is also a retired army officer.
Yes.
He is also a former head of state.
So
there's a need for them to put these experiences together so that we can get the girls.
Margaret, good evening. You're calling from Ogun.
Hello? Yeah.
Good evening, Margaret. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. You live, your contribution, please.
Okay. Hello?
Hello, Margaret.
Yeah.
We're waiting for
Please
you.
go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This is Margaret calling from Iba from the state.
Yeah, good evening.
Thank you very much. I just want to contribute to this program, to a wonderful program.
All right, you're welcome.
Yeah, and I want to say something about the former head of state and General Goan. I think this style of praying for the country, I think I'm not happy about it. It is part of the problem of this country. When we have the money, we wasted the money during his own time. I think this question of prayer, did America use prayer to develop their country? Did Britain use prayer to develop their country? We have to work very hard to develop our country. And our country must be developed by Nigerians, not President Mohammed alone. All hands must be on deck to develop this country. This prayer of Hussein, I think, is getting to my mouth.
All right,
Thank
Margaret.
you. Thank you very much.
Don't let it get to your nerves, Margaret. Thank you so much. The prayers is getting to our nerves. And, for you,
I was just trying to be very kind, you know.
yeah, with your words, really. But she has hit the nail on the head now. He said people like Goan were part of the problems of this country, the way she said it. What's your own take on that?
He's the architect of the modern, crisis reading polity that we have today. There is no doubt about that.
And most of the heads of states, really, not only him.
Do you think? Look, you need to go back to the history. I don't want to discuss Goan. If that is the program, I can say a lot about it.
But Goan is the one that said because we should talk about the messenger.
You remember his announcement in 1973 that he won't be able to hand over again.
Yes.
If he had pursued the transition program peacefully after several years, close to 10 years, and handed over in Nigeria, he fought the civil war. He won the civil war, the 3 R's, reconstruction, rehabilitation, what did he do with them? A section of Nigeria that was devastated. Are they happy today? I'm talking about Igbo land.
Yeah.
Do they feel like part of Nigeria today? Part of the anger is it not being visited on President Buhari, who didn't commit any offense against the Igbos? So please, these are issues we can just leave and move on. But the issue is General Goan is carrying a very big moral baggage. He has done a lot to create or put Nigeria in this crisis, and I don't think it's prayers. We don't try to say there is no need for prayers.
Yeah, but
nations are not built because of prayers. Nations achieve greatness because of good ideas, good programs, that people work very hard to pursue and implement. That's all I want.
Talking about the messenger now, let me go to you, General. You were there, you knew. General Goan was a young man when he started. He got married.
29.
He got married while
Yes.
he was a president.
Yes.
He was
In
that
November.
young.
Yes.
So he could have had the dream of the Nigeria of his dream. But what happened? Because he was there. Now, I know we need prayers, really, but...
We do.
But
You know,
I don't know.
I think that's one of the failures of former President Olusegun Obasanjo. Because when Obasanjo came in 1999, he saw the need for what we call real reconciliation of the various segments in Nigeria. And he came up with this Oputa panel. But unfortunately, and characteristic of Obasanjo, he has a no agenda for that reconciliation or Oputa panel stuff, not because he actually genuinely believed in reconciliation. If we have used that occasion, that opportunity provided by that Oputa panel to really reconcile these various segments of Nigeria, perhaps we will not be blaming General Goan, who left office in 1976, that's about 40-something years ago, for the problem that we have today. Some of us still remember that very popular quote, that money is not the problem of Nigeria,
Yes.
but how to spend the money.
it.
That was when
That
Nigeria...
was during the first start.
Yeah, told the foreign journalist.
Yes, that
Yes.
was when Nigeria was even going to other countries to go and pay their civil servants.
Yes. And the
That-
dollar
the oil
was
boom era.
almost at par with the naira.
Yes,
Yes.
you're right. That was when Nigeria was even turning this trans-Sahara road,
Yes.
crossing across the whole of Africa.
Life was good.
Yes, under him.
Short.
Because if he, like he said, if he had used that money then to really prepare for the future of Nigeria, definitely we will not be where we are today. But that is history now. General Goan is no more in government. If we believe that prayer is what we need to atone for his own sins and then to save Nigeria, I don't have any grudge with him. Let him continue with his prayers. But whether we like it or we need prayers.
Yeah, we
but let
should-
us start
and let
We
the,
need
the
this
government
idea.
continue
We
with
need
No,
work.
maybe that one of the things he has
We
gone
have
to
a
tell.
plethora of crises.
One of the things he has
You
gone
know,
to tell the
Nigeria-
president.
You see people talking about restructuring, a lot of issues. He's been in that office before. He knows the problems. We need his ideas, suggestions on how we can move to the next level.
And his prayers also.
Then you can back,
That
we
was
can
why-
back all this
that
with
was
the
why he
prayers.
went to
When he
the
But you
gives the
put
idea
something in
first.
front before you back them with,
With the prayers.
Honestly, that's the way I feel. So his own prayer, you want to pray in America, you want to pray in UK, and Nigeria is, come on, I don't think I'm impressed.
I do understand. And when we return, Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption invites the embattled former Chairman, House of Representatives Committee on Appropriation, Abdulmumin Jubre, to appear before it. Stay tuned. So welcome back. The Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption, headed by Professor Itse Sage, has invited a former chairman, House of Representatives Committee on Appropriation, Abdulmumin Jubre, to appear before it and submit a detailed petition on his budget padding allegations against the Speaker, Yakubu Dogara, and 3 other principal officers. In a letter addressed to Jubre by the Executive Secretary of the Presidential Advisory Committee, Professor Bolaji Owasonoye, Jubre was asked to visit his office on August 31 to make the submission. Jubre had described the invitation as another victory for the anti-corruption crusade he launched against the principal officers soon after he was sacked on July the 20th for abusing the 2016 budget. He had previously made similar presentations to the police, the EFCC, the ICPC, and the DSS. Gentlemen, what's your own take on this? It seems Jubre is not going to give up until he sees Dogara behind the bar. Or how do I put it?
I don't think he's only Dogara, even himself.
The Presidential Advisory Committee on Corruption. It was one of the very first move by the president when he assumed office. One of the very first assignments he did was to set up this committee headed by Professor Isesage. And just to let you know the president's disposition to the war against corruption. That was one of the very first things he did.
But since this is the first time we're hearing much
No, they
about
have
the
always been
committee.
there.
No,
All
they've
these
been
cases that we are
They've been
seeing,
talking.
you
They just work
all
behind
this,
it.
all,
Yeah,
all
behind the
this
scenes.
new way of prosecuting alleged corrupt people is from the advice from this committee. Because, you know, hitherto, the ICC will just lump one case together. They will take the person to court. Maybe 2 or 3 days, the guy will be in detention. After that, the guy will come out. Then he becomes another Nigerian. But these days, you will see these people entangled in so many cases. You will see the expertise of this advisory committee. Now, back to the Jubril issue. I'm very sorry to say this. This is the first time I'm going to make a public comment on Jubril issue. Dikola Oku, I'm not excited by this Jubril of a thing.
He's not
because at times I listen to some. I'm sorry to use the word. One of the noise he makes. I watch him on different platforms, newspaper, television, and I ask myself, what is this guy talking about? Does it mean we are forgotten that when the president said he was not going to sign the budget? I remember this Jubril. He was calling President Buhari names.
I know.
Threatening fire and brimstone.
I know.
This same Jubril, maybe he has forgotten.
He supported Dogara then.
It was fantastic. He was calling president names that we are no more in the era of dictatorship.
Yes.
Whether he likes it or not, he must sign the budget. This budget you are now telling us that was padded.
General, he has apologized.
No,
he
listen,
apologized
on what basis
he
are you now
apologized
fighting?
to the president for even supporting
the point
Dogara.
is, if you ask him, the issue of budget, I remember that when it became an embarrassment to the House, I remember I read that thing, that even members of that committee then said when the budget issue was sent to the appropriation committee, that this guy disappeared for about 2 or 3 weeks. It was later that they learned that he hired 2 experts. They didn't disclose the name of the experts who worked on the budget, which he brought to the appropriation committee members. The members said then that they never saw anything, that this guy, it was only on the floor that he presented the budget. Now the issue of padding that he has been talking about. How do you mean padding? You guys sent a budget that you said you have passed to the president, meaning that the House of Representatives, the National Assembly as a whole, the Joint Committee, have sent a bill that are passed to the president, meaning that all of you have passed that budget. How can you not tell me it was only Dogara and 4 people?
And he was in charge of appropriation as at that time. The budget went via him.
No, right? I think what the committee, Affairs Committee is saying is, maybe when they have audience with him, maybe he'll be able to make himself clear. I'm sorry to say, to me, I see what he's doing as just a matter of making noise.
But the noise he's making, really, is he making sense from the noise? Jibrin. Is Jibrin making sense at all?
To me, it's not. Maybe it might be difficult.
But do you think Dogara, Lasun, Leo Ogo, are they innocent?
They cannot be innocent, because if you look at the history of Nigerian budget, that's why, let me just...
That means Jibrin is not really making noise.
No, the issue is the issue of padding. Padding means that 1, 2, 3 people have added something.
Deduction.
But what they sent to the president, according to them, was a document passed by the National Assembly.
Yes.
So how can you now tell us that only 4 people? I'm looking at logic.
So you
cannot say Dogara padded, because when the budget got to the president, you said this is the budget from the National Assembly. How can you not say one person padded?
What do you think?
I think I agreed with him to an extent. I disagree on a lot of things he has said. Why? Jibrin had a good opportunity to write his name in gold.
What kind of gold?
But he did not.
What kind of gold now?
If he had spilled the beans when he was the chairman of appropriation committee,
that would be a better gold.
Believe me, the whole country would have been clapping for him today. But when he lost out in the power game, in the intrigues, people always want to die to get to the office of speaker or chief whip or whatever position they can get in the legislature. Despite the fact that he didn't do that, he has lost my respect because of that. If it were to be in the court, maybe they won't even see whatever he's saying as. But why don't we even cool down and let's see what we can glean from what he has been able to say. Some of the documents he has put in the public domain.
So you're saying he's making a little bit of sense?
Believe me.
Though he's making noise.
Well, I didn't say he's making noise. I'm saying let's examine what he's saying. There may be no truth in it. There may be
some truth.
Some truth. Believe me, we don't need to just disregard him totally because of what he did not do at the right time and why is he doing it now. Of course, we will have issues with that. If somebody is making noise that this happened, let's investigate.
But look at what he's saying now. We cannot just single out Dogara single out the few.
When you want to
Maybe the
pad
principal-
budget, when you want to pad budget, believe me, the leadership carries out most of it. It's not that others will not benefit, but okay, let me give you one example. I won't mention the state and I won't mention the name. Somebody, one of the principal officers, I traveled recently. This hotel I'm talking to you belongs, to one of them. And as I'm talking to you, in that state, that hotel is going to be the best and the biggest. And I said, wow.
From a lawmaker.
From one of the leadership of the House of Representatives. And I said, wow, within less than 1.5 years,
You're making money.
now I know why people always want to die to be a principal officer in the National Assembly. This fellow I'm talking about is not a first comer or first timer in the House of Reps. But I'm telling you today. So when they talk about budget padding, they know what they are saying. Lawyers will tell you there can be legitimate padding, there can be illegitimate padding. Whatever, let's investigate.
Okay, get to look at his argument. He's saying that,
So I'm seriously in support of what the presidential
advisory committee is
I
doing.
am totally in support of that.
Okay, look at what the argument is. Jibrin, I think initially his own argument was he inserted 4 billion, right? And he has said, okay, from the 40 billion, Dogara is taking a large chunk of the 40 billion and giving the others to share. Let's talk about this constituency project, and it seems that's the only way padding is being effected in the whole thing. And looking at it, the rule of law, separation of power, where does it come in now when the executive sends a bill to the legislative arm of the government? And the legislative arm of a government, the legislative arm of a government was to be the one to scrutinize what the executive said. And now the legislative arm of government sent add or deduct. So what happens to the bill? Where does the rule, the factor of the rule of law come in? Can I quickly take Mohammed and I'll come to that question? Good evening, Mohammed.
Good evening.
You're calling from Plateau?
Yeah, I'm calling from Plateau.
Your contribution, please.
Yeah, about this Jibril, this pardon of the thing. Yeah, I think we should give him a chance, and the committee should look into it very well. Even if he couldn't have the chance to do it at the right time, but since he has been talking about this, making so many publications, so let us give it a chance and look into it and find out the truth, because no matter how it is, there should be an element of truth in what he is saying.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to say in essence is that even if he didn't do it at the right time, let's look at it very carefully.
Okay.
And give it a look through and see what is coming out of it. Because I believe what they are pardoning, they are actually pardoning something. Because like the way the president said, I have never heard of the word pardon until this time around. That was what he said. And they allow us to do our Goan to and they now part the budget. And nobody's going so you understand, so let's give it a chance.
All right, you said they are actually padding something. Okay, that's what you said. Thank you so much, Mohammed. So if you get what I mean, the argument is,
if you look at,
if you leave them like that.
Since 1999, there have always been this throwing of brickbat between the executive and the legislature when it comes to the, especially at the national level, when it comes to the issue of budgeting. Where does the power of the legislature where does it start? And where does the power of the executive, where does it end? We always make reference to Section 88, the power of the legislature to make laws. What type of law? It is believed that the National Appropriation Bill is a proposed law.
Yes.
And the moment it is taken to the National Assembly,
it's called Appropriation Act.
It's
a law.
It's a law. So the moment it becomes an act, it's a law.
Okay.
So that is just their own argument. But you see, let me go back to the issue of this issue of padding. I remember that when the president submitted his budget, and then there was this brouhaha from National Assembly that, oh, this budget has been padded. I was privy to talk to a former member of the Senate. The man was livid with anger that Nigerian journalists have failed, Nigerian media have failed. that we are making it look then as if that was the first time the budget will be padded from the executive. That hitherto, the executive will pad budget. And who are the executive? The administrative people from the finance secretary. They will pad the budget. So the moment they take it to National Assembly know them. They will say, okay, oh boy, we have seen what you are doing. Add our own. But because, I'm telling you what this man told me, I must have said it on
you scratch my back.
Yes, and the man said the reason why National Assembly was making noise then was because they knew that Buhari would not play game. Because the moment, you see, that's why I don't understand what Jubril is talking about. Whether Dugara padded budget or not, it is only when the president releases the money that you can steal that money. And this president has told them through the SGF that constituency project, no money for it this time. They even summoned the man to the National Assembly. The man said, I said it. There's no money. And that's the only area where they can pad, where they can steal the thing they have padded. How did they do? They go to the ministry that they have padded their budget. Maybe we don't have to use that word. That this is what we have added. If you're going to award those contracts, we bring the contractors. We tell you how much they are going to pay, and then they know how to share it.
And they use their power of oversight to
that one. So, but the point is now the president has told them, even that's why you listen to the Minister for National Planning, that to them there's nothing like padding, because they know they are not going to release any money to you guys for constituency project. So where does the issue of padding now come? When they have not stolen the money? The money has, maybe what they can use to bring for is to give them this information about the ones they have collected in the past 2, 3, 4 years, but not this one that the president said is not going to release any money.
Okay, Musa, let's call him from Akwa Ibom. Good evening, Musa.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yeah, well, I just want to make a contribution, but I want you to permit me to just chip in for the last topic a little bit.
Okay.
The issue of prayer. You see, it is always the highest of hypocrisy when our leaders are calling for prayers. When you look at the just concluded Olympic, only Michael Phelps got about 20 gold medals. Does he pray? It's not prayer. We have to work hard and be determined to what we want to achieve. So that is that. And the issue of this Presidential Advisory Committee on corruption, I think the press, the journalists, they need to put more eyes on this advisory committee because they've been working under the ground. Nobody knows what they are doing over there. We need them to surface. We need them to carry out actions that is needed for this anti-corruption to be institutionalized in the current dispensation. Otherwise, that's how the 4 years will come and pass. We will only have the name of Advisory Committee on Corruption. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Musa.
Thank you very much.
As we round up on the segment, he's been to the ICPC, that's talking about Jubril. He's been to the police, he's been to the EFCC. So what is it that we should be expecting for this advisory committee?
What I expect this administration to do, including these committees, they should just investigate what Jubril is saying. I don't want the government to let the people have the impression that Dogara is a very loyal party man, or we should not. No, investigate. Whoever is found culpable, either in the current budget, or in the past ones, bring them to book.
And nobody will say it's witch hunt.
It's not about witch hunt. Even if Jubril is fingered in it, please let him face the music. If one of them is coming out, he must. Does it make Jubril himself a saint? He's facing one investigation or the other in the past, and those investigations have not been concluded. When it is coming out now, maybe we should be having more people visiting the police, visiting the court, answering. Maybe that's what he wants. Then we should be ready to do that.
Okay, then. What do you think?
I think the implication of that committee's invitation to him is that, like you have said, he petitioned police, EFCC, DSS, everybody. Maybe they have not been able to make anything out of all those things he submitted. Because if not, I don't think there's any need for this committee to have invited him. Maybe what they invite him, maybe by the time he appears before them, he'll be able to give them a reason why they should go into action. But the guy who...
But don't forget that investigations are ongoing.
Yes, yes, if not, there's no need. If they are making any headway, there's no need for the committee. Then for the man who said maybe those guys are not doing anything, like I said earlier,
The advisory committee.
They are working seriously. Don't forget that they have even come up with a new template, whereby EFCC, yes, you're going to do the prosecution, but they are the one that will provide the lawyers. And they have assembled about 25 or 26 lawyers that will be handling all these high-profile cases. Because with Professor Isesage at the SADU, it is not going to be like the way we have been fighting corruption. You can see the traces that things are moving and differently. We now have experts that are now dictating or driving this anti-corruption, and the advisory committee, they are the one behind it.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. And moving on, the Niger Delta Avengers have been warned to stop the crisis in the Niger Delta region. President Muhammadu Buhari has promised not to use force in resolving the crisis rocking the Niger Delta region unless the Avengers gives him a reason to use force. He said this when he hosted the United States Secretary of State, John Kerry. And he also added that although the actions in the past years have brought negative impact on the economy and also affected the positive intentions of foreign and local investors in the country, the Avengers recently declared a ceasefire and was ready to negotiate with the federal government. Will Buhari's warnings to the Avengers stop their activities in the region? And again, now the whole matter is not only Avengers. Every day I think these guys come up, the Icelanders, the something agitators, they just come up every day like new cathedral.
I think, you know, we are in the era of democracy. I think what those guys have been able to do, they have democratized the forces of coercion and criminality. And that's exactly what they have introduced democracy into it. But
they don't have the monopoly of
no, because, you know, it's a tactics. If you look at it, all these associations, all these criminal associations or groups will be from one source. But it's just a matter of
diversify their economy.
Decentralize or diversify the process. But that is not even the most important thing. The duty of every government, any government that worth that name, is to provide security and welfare for the people. And if we agree that what these guys have been doing in the past 8 or 7 months is nothing but criminality, is nothing but making life very unbearable for some people. Don't forget that in recent times, they started killing military men and stuff like that. And I don't think there's any responsible and reasonable government that will fold its arms and allow them to just have a field day. Unless we want to deceive ourselves. Everybody knows where these things are coming from. Because I asked myself, how come that it was when they declared Tompolo wanted, that all of a sudden these guys remembered that some people are holding oil block? How come that it was then that they remembered that their areas have been marginalized? They didn't remember that one about 3 years ago. But all of a sudden, they remembered that, oh, some people are holding oil blocks. As if this government that came in about a year ago have even given any oil block to anybody. Out. As if this government that came about a year ago has even done any road as such that they will say those people are marginalized. If you look at the president, this current president, even before the man appointed his ministers, one of the very first appointments Buhari made when he came in was the man who is in charge of the amnesty program. This is the Brigadier General.
I've forgotten his name.
Brigadier General, I've forgotten his name.
Who is from
that side.
Niger Delta.
And then you say this guy is not looking at your side. I don't think there's any need for us to say too much. But even some people believe that this government is even too weak. I'm sorry to use that word on these guys.
It's soft.
It's soft.
Look at the cleanup of Ogoniland. It was something that happened during Obasanjo's administration and all that. But the process continued and the report was ready all through Jonathan era.
Nothing was that.
He didn't do anything. I remember Amici making a case out of this all the time. One of their own, when he was president, didn't do anything. But when this government came, one of the first promises was that I would implement the UNEP report. And by now, a lot of progress is being made in this direction. Believe me, it needs, if you talk about marginalization, injustices, and all that, it takes a lot of time for this government or any government whatsoever to solve some of the problems. You can't just, within a year, and the whole crisis will disappear. But allow criminals to dictate in the Niger Delta, I don't think this government should condone it. If it means using force, I expect this government to use force because this will still not work.
But will force work? Even Kerry said the only force cannot work.
Where I don't care about what foreigners say about our country. I care about what my president does.
But do you think it will work?
No,
Both will work.
Because of recent...
When we engage those, some will be willing.
Yes.
Some will be willing to sit down and answer criminality.
Because
some
now,
will not.
Looking, it said the president warns the Avengers, and compounded with the fact that of recent, Nigeria will be getting some helicopters, new ones, rugged helicopters.
Yes, I love the way the president said that. I'm ready to use force. If you push me,
is that what it means? Like it's going to be warned? Does that mean?
Yes,
I
that
will use
I'm
force?
ready to use force if you push me to the wall.
Like we all agreed here. About 2-3 months ago, I have some friends that live around the Arepo, Ibafo side, that had to abandon their houses.
Yeah, a lot of people.
I am telling you, a friend of mine had to abandon his house. The same thing in the Ikorodu Aziz. The guy kept calling me, Bradipo, are you going to be watching
the
us like
crisis
this?
was spilling from that
But
Aziz.
all of a sudden, when the government came out with its name government, where are those guys today?
But those ones, according to semantics or according to nomenclature, those ones are pipeline vandals. But the ones in the Niger, they are like militants. You know, we use different militants fighting for emancipation.
Okay, forget about the names. When you are blowing up pipes in the Niger Delta, or you are blowing up pipes in Lagos, or you are blowing up pipes in Ogun State. What you are doing is you are doing collateral damage to economic interest of Nigeria. So whatever name you bear, we don't care. What you are doing to Nigeria is you are destroying Nigeria.
Okay.
Economically.
I have a Benson from Niger. Good evening, Benson.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah. I want to contribute to the program.
Yeah, you're free to.
Yeah, what I want to say is that this Niger Delta crisis of the thing, I think it's all about politics. Because Buhari just came in not long, just barely a year. They started the problem there. And good luck, Jonathan was there for about 6 years. No problem, nothing. So I think on what they are doing, and I give this government a chance because Buhari means well for this nation.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Benson is saying like the Yoruba, that the witch cried yesterday, and the child died. Thank you so much, Benson. And the child died earlier in the morning. So what does he?
We'll be giving ourselves unnecessary stress if we are looking for the
source
of this crisis in Niger Delta.
But they need to look at the source before
people know the source unless they want to deceive themselves.
Okay.
People know the source
of this present agitation.
Agitation, yes, because go and look at their demands. When
they phrase the account of Tompolo is one of the demands.
About don't prosecute anybody from Niger Delta.
Yes.
When they're talking about go and release Nnamdi Kanu.
Yes.
And go and stop
anti-corruption.
Go and stop Dasuki's case.
Yes.
Now we shouldn't. That's not even the issue. The issue is not. Let us now dissect the statement or the speech credited to Kerry on which everybody are talking about. Wasn't just saw it carrot and stick approach. I think it was Hillary Clinton when he was Secretary of State who first of all raised this issue, even under Jonathan. That they have looked at the issue of, first of all, let us look at the issue of Northeast. That while you are fighting the war, there are some people that went into this war unknowingly. So there's a need for you to de-radicalize these people. And that's exactly what the government is doing. I am very much aware. Because I traveled to the north and I noticed that in the mosque now, they now have hired some imams, sheikhs that have been talking to their children that this is not the way to go. And that is one thing I think the Kerry is now
should, yes.
That while you are fighting the war, there is also the need for you to disabuse the minds of some of these boys that have been coerced into joining the war without knowing.
Gentlemen, we have to go. Do you want to drop a line before we leave?
I want my president to use the force if there is need to.
But there should be rules of engagement.
That will be taken care of.
Okay. What do you think?
I think people have told them, but I think Niger Delta guys need to look at what the damage they are doing to their environment in the course of blowing up pipelines. Okay. The one that they are trying to clean up the Goan land is still there.
They still adding more to it.
The problem.
Maybe people should tell them that. Maybe they never knew before they started that. And that's all on Journalist Hangout today. Join us tomorrow for another exciting episode of the program. And watch the repeat broadcast tonight at 11. You can also watch Journalist Hangout on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at TVC News Legality.tv. I am Dapo Aruwajoye. Bye for now. God bless Nigeria.